negotiations or discussions, but when it comes
territorial integrity of Ukraine as one of the main preconditions for future peace negotiation, or you are ready to discuss the status of some region of Ukraine? Thank you.
Thank you. When it comes to the discussion on peace talks, our position is very clear, and I would like to reiterate two main points. One, the EU's position for peace is that it is for Ukraine to decide the actual conditions, and the second one is our point that nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. This shows also in view of Russia's continuous attacks that Russia cannot be trusted. We have seen also the attacks over the weekend, including a strike on Kyiv, where 3 people have died, including a 5-year-old child. So this shows that Russia still needs to demonstrate its genuine political will to end its illegal and unprovoked aggression. Now, when it comes to our support is very strong, as we have shown through the different strands, the military, the financial, the humanitarian support, sanctions, the 16 sanction packages, the 17 sanction packages, also the military support plan. We have to support Ukraine right now more than ever, and this is what we will be doing.
Yes, Vitaly, follow-up?
But from the point of view EU, is it possible to discuss the territorial integrity of Ukraine for the sake of possible negotiation? Thank you.
Thank you. We have already addressed this question, but also let me recall the European Council's conclusion from the 21st of March, where the Council is also reiterating its unwavering support to Ukraine's independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity, and also a last point on this referenda that were a total sham and at gunpoint.
That was very clear. Anita? Yes, Magnus.
Thank you, Paula. Just to be perfectly clear, does the EU Commission see the referendums which got referred to as legitimate?
I have just answered that question.
Still to Anita on external affairs?
I guess so. Valeria Pashko, the Public Broadcaster of Ukraine. I have a question about trade liberalization with Ukraine. I'm not sure if it's not. Okay, sorry.
Anita, I have a question in South Sudan, because I see, no, it's not to you, because delegation, the safety and security of the delegation there.
Yes, to cover the whole world, we need two colleagues. That's why. So, anyone else still to Anita? I see one question still on Greenland from Karen Axelsen online.
Yes, hi, thank you for this. You keep iterating your support for Denmark and for territorial integrity. It doesn't seem really to have a great impact on the Trump administration. A couple of hours ago, J.D. Vance repeated his claim that Denmark is a bad ally and not doing its job. So what is your reaction to that claim that Denmark is not a good ally? Thank you. And what are you going to do about it? Thanks.
Thank you. I cannot comment on any comments coming from the U.S. side. I can only comment on our policy, Denmark, as a member state, having our full support that we cherish and worship.
Good. And we have another question for Anita from Ekrem Krasnik.
Hello, can you hear me, please?
We can.
You do, great. Can we go one by one with Anita? Before I bump her with like 4 or 5, perhaps 6?
What we've been doing and covering already.
We're listening here to the European Commission. They're discussing multiple topics, including some security concerns within the region because of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and a reminder that members from the Trump administration and in the U.S., they're going to be meeting with Russian delegates to talk about that ceasefire proposal. I brought you back out here to a live picture over at the White House on this Monday. And then we heard some remarks regarding the Trump administration's interest within Greenland. Also, just looking ahead to the fact that Second Lady Usha Vance will be visiting the land sometime this week. We're going to have more information on that, of course, as it gets underway. Thank you all for being with us on this Monday, March 24th. My name is Karal Lahara, and I'll be with you throughout the next several hours, continuing to guide you through the day's top stories, showcasing live events from around the world. We're going to step away for our first commercial break of this hour. Much more right after this. Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. Let's head back out to Brussels in Belgium. The European Commission continuing to discuss several of these topics that they're watching out for, some of the biggest headlines, and really including that ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and also their thoughts on the Trump administration and some of those initiatives. Let's watch.
Dialogue between the US and us on the Western Balkans. That's basically what Anita just replied. You would like to add?
Yes, I understood the answer. Do you have at any level cooperation with the United States in this moment, being through Quint group or bilaterally at the lower or medium level or whatever level in dealing with the Western Balkans in general, not only the dialogue?
Yes, we are in contact, but I have nothing more specific to tell you in this regard.
Good. Still to Anita? Yes? Still to Anita on the external affairs?
Thank you, Paula. It's a follow-up on the question of my colleague here, Alexandra. We need a comment on camera regarding the arrest and imprisonment of Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, who's also the Turkish opposition presidential candidate. And we would like to have a comment on camera. We don't ask you a comment on the accession process. Thank you.
Good. No, we'll come back to that. I just wanted to make sure that we exhaust all the questions. No, we will come back to that, but it will be Guillaume indeed. Any other question to Anita? No, so we let Anita rest a bit. Good. Guillaume.
Afternoon. What we can say is the arrest of the mayor İmamoğlu and the protesters give rise to the questions regarding Turkey's adherence to its long-established democratic tradition. As a Council of Europe member and an EU candidate, Turkey must uphold democratic values. These rights, the rights of elected officials, as well as the right of peaceful demonstrations, need to be fully respected.
Yes, Alexandra.
Do you still consider Turkey a like-minded ally? And if yes, could you define for us the principles of an EU ally, like-minded EU ally? Thank you so much.
I would recall what what President von der Leyen said last week, precisely on Turkey. We want Turkey to remain anchored to Europe, but this requires a clear commitment to democratic norms and practices, and it's key that Turkey respects those fundamental principles.
Yes, Jorge to Guillaume.
Hello. It's following up on Alexandra's as well, because last week we saw President Erdogan. He joined a video conference with President Ursula von der Leyen and President Antonio Costa. After the EU summit, there's been a, let's say, rapprochement between EU and Turkey regarding Ukraine and the possible coalition of the willing. Is the Commission reconsidering Turkey's participation or close involvement in this process in light of the recent developments, or you see the two things, the arrest of the mayor and the coalition of the willing, as completely separate things that do not influence each other? Thank you.
So Turkey had been part of this discussion as coalition of the willing already previously and before the developments in Turkey, and it was in that capacity that indeed there was a debrief of the European Council, as it had already taken place after the previous European Council with Turkey, but also with other countries who had shown an interest in the coalition of the willing and in that particular discussion. Yes, Alexandra.
That is clear. Whether and how you perceive Turkey within the coalition of the willing. My question will be different. Are you perhaps reconsidering the organization of 2 high-level dialogues next month, which the President has informed the 27 EU leaders in her letter ahead of the EU Council, which will focus on economy and migration, if I'm not mistaken? Thank you so much.
What I would say is that following the April 2024 strategic guidance of the European Council, relations with Turkey were marked by gradual re-engagement, and concrete steps were taken towards constructive exchanges on issues of joint interest. So as you mentioned, in this context, the EU engages in high-level dialogues with Turkey on a number of issues. When it comes to future dialogues, we will not speculate at this stage on possible cancellation. Our position has been made really clear when it comes to the current situation in Turkey.
Yes, Jorge.
Thank you. So just to be fully clear here, the latest developments have had no impact whatsoever on this gradual re-engagement, as you just described it, Guillaume, between the EU and Turkey. There's no change whatsoever in how you're dealing with Turkey in reaction to these latest developments. And second, when it comes to the charges that the mayor is facing, the Council of Europe has already called them a sham, questioning the validity of these charges. Do you have any comment on the charges that the mayor is facing at this current stage? Thank you.
What I can say, what I can add is, indeed, we are following very closely the situation in Turkey, but I would not be able to tell you more on what it means for re-engagement at this stage. Our position is really clear. And when it comes to the second questions on the charges, again, we explain our position. There's nothing else I can add at this stage.
Any other question to Guillaume? I see. No, I don't see who is good. Then we can go, maybe move on to the questions that were asked to Olaf by Julia. Julia, if you don't mind just repeating briefly so that we all recall what the question was.
So, my question was about Europe's defense plan. When last week Ursula von der Leyen said in the press conference that the candidate countries can join this defense plan of Europe Readiness 2030. And I'd like you to explain to us how exactly can Moldova join, what the authorities should do to join this defense plan, and what does it mean for us as a country? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So I'll give you the wider general answer, and if you have more specific questions, I would encourage you to follow up bilaterally afterwards. So essentially, when it comes to procurement, under the Security Action for Europe instrument, or SAFE as we call it, this permits all countries with whom the EU has signed a security and defence partnership to buy together with member states, together with EU member states. So this means that they can do procurement together with EU member states. They can also negotiate specific mutually beneficial agreements on the participation of their respective industries in such procurements. So there's the national participation, and then there's the participation of specific industries. So I hope that gives you some clarity. And if you have more specific questions, please follow up with us.
Okay. Thank you. And then now maybe we can move to the question that you had earlier on, which is also to Olaf.
On trade liberalization. So my question is on trade liberalization with Ukraine, which expires on June 5. I'm wondering whether the Commission has prepared the particular proposals for ministers, and when, if not, when it's expected to be ready, or how will it look like? Maybe you can provide us with some details. Thanks.
Thanks for your question. I can't say too much right now other than to repeat that the Commission is fully committed to such consultations with Ukraine on Article 29 of our association agreement in the context of advancing reciprocal tariff liberalisation. We are currently finalising the work on the proposal and we will present it to Ukraine soon. When? Soon.
Don't have a specific date yet. And I have a question still for Olof from Peggy Corlin, online.
Hi. I would like to know, is Commissioner Šefčovič still traveling to China? And if yes, when exactly?
Thank you for your question, Peggy. Yes, I can confirm that it is the intention of Commissioner Šefčovič to travel to China at the end of this week, arriving Thursday, leaving Saturday, last time I checked.
Good. Any other question to Olof? Yes.
Hi, Magdalena Cedro, Polish press agency. I have a follow-up on the trade with Ukraine. So Ukraine will be consulted on the proposal first, but how will the legislative procedure look like? Will you consult also member states? And will it be done before the current regulation expire in June?
Thanks for your question. I can't be detailed about timings at this point. Certainly the intention, as we've said very clearly before, the Commission's intention is to try and bake the issues relating to trade between the EU and Ukraine into the association agreement, thus removing it from the autonomous trade measures which run until early June. But I can't say anything more at this point about exact timings. And in terms of legislative procedure, it'll be what it normally is. And of course, before it gets to any formal procedure, there is constant contact between the EU and its member states on this important issue.
Any other question for Olof? Yes, a follow-up.
So, me once again, would you confirm that Commissioner Šefčovič is on his way to Washington, and would you give us some information? What do you expect the visit will bring? What will be on the table?
Thank you for your question. Yes, I can confirm that Commissioner Šefčovič is currently making his way to Washington, D.C., where he will meet his American counterparts, Secretaries Lutnick and United States Trade Representative Greer, and they will discuss much the same issues they've been discussing for the past few weeks, which is EU-US trade relations, and from our perspective, why we should be making every effort on both sides to avoid harmful tariffs and build rather than tear down the EU-US trade and economic relationship, which is the strongest in the world.
Listening here as the European Commission continues to take questions on several topics, and you saw there on the back end of that last question that representatives from Europe are going to be heading over to Washington, D.C. to continue their discussions amid this trade war and to talk about why the Trump administration really should be working with the European Council to just make sure that tariffs are good for both sides. So that's one of the key aspects that we'll also be monitoring for you here at Live Now from Fox. We're going to step away for another brief commercial break. We'll continue with more from Brussels next. You're taking a live look this morning over in Jerusalem, Israel. Coming up in the next hour, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we are expecting an update from the Israeli government regarding the war in Gaza. Now, this comes as the Associated Press reporting earlier today that Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip have killed more than 60 Palestinians, including women and children. That's according to what the Gaza Health Ministry said early on Monday. And it comes nearly a week after Israel ended its ceasefire with Hamas. Meanwhile, officials in Egypt have introduced a new proposal to try to get the Israel-Hamas ceasefire back on track. Under that proposal, Hamas would release 5 living hostages, including an American Israeli, in return for Israel allowing humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and a weeks-long pause in the fighting, according to an Egyptian official. Israel would also release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Now, Hamas officials said the group had, quote, responded positively to the proposal without elaborating. Both officials spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to brief the media in those closed-door talks. So that is just the latest courtesy of the Associated Press. And at 9:30 a.m., we will be bringing you that update from the Israeli government live. In the meantime, continuing on with more from the European Commission discussing several topics, including Europe's defense amid the war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as how they are working closely with the Trump administration amid this tariff war.
First day of a 2-day visit. I know that he's going to be talking about the rule of law report from 2024, but will the recent Pride banning of that LGBTQI plus event, will that come up today? And will we get a readout from the talks today and tomorrow? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it is for Marcus indeed.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, indeed. As you know, Commissioner McGrath is in Hungary today. Maybe a bit more general on his visit. An important part of a commissioner's role is to work with member states to promote and strengthen the rule of law for the benefit of all EU citizens. The Commission intends to visit several member states, meeting national authorities and stakeholders to discuss various topics in his portfolio, and this includes Hungary. During his visit, he's meeting with representatives of the government, of the judiciary, and with civil society and media stakeholders to discuss rule of law, including as a follow-up to the 2024 rule of law report. So now on your follow-up questions or specific questions, the question on the Pride, he has said already a little bit about this in an interview with Hungarian media, which came out today. On more specific points on this, maybe Eva can follow up, and we will see whether we can provide you with a readout indeed.
Good. For Marcus, any other question? Yes.
Thank you. Nicholas Wallace for your active. You said Commissioner McGrath's meeting with civil society in Hungary. It's a complicated category in that country. Can you tell us who he's meeting from Hungarian civil society? Thank you.
I'll have to check for the exact list, but would also like you to refer to the chapeau we published on Friday.
Great. Thank you, Nicholas. To Marcus, still any question? No. Then, yes, David, is it to, no, a different topic. So we had a question on South Sudan. Yes, go ahead. And then we'll see if...
Well, thank you for an opportunity. Indeed, my question is on South Sudan, because I see from sites that His Excellency Ambassador Olkinen is very active in Juba. He participates in different seminars and he gives addresses. But my question to you, Anwar, is it how safe it is to continue these activities in Juba? Because as we learned on Saturday, Germany decided to close the doors of its embassy because of the safety and security situation, and it was explicitly said that the country is at the edge of the civil war. The situation is very fragile. They decided to choose the safety of the people first.
Thank you very much for the question. I will revert back bilaterally in terms of the security assessment that you are raising here, but what I can actually say is recall a statement that we have actually published locally a few days ago, where we had deplored the continued violence in the Upper Nile state, including aerial bombardment in the Nasir country and credible reports of civilian casualties. That's all I can say at this stage, but I'll revert back bilaterally. Thanks.
Yes.
Anwar, should I understand that there were no assessment or similar assessments on safety and security of the delegation are there? And would it be an advice issued for Europeans who work there, for NGOs? Because really the situation with peace, their fragile peace, is very, very alarming.
Thanks much. No, you should just understand that I do not own the information at this point in time, and you can also understand that I'm fully committed to reverting back to you as early as possible in the course of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Anwar. Yes, another question, another topic, and another member of the team, I understand. So nothing else for Anwar? Good, then we move on. Yes, Nicholas.
Nico for Euractiv. This is a question potentially for you, Paula, and also for Anna Kaiser. I was just hoping to clear up some confusion in the last 8 to 12 days about the EU's 2040 climate target proposal, where it seems several members of the college and the services have been contradicting one another, saying that the commissioner was not qualified to make a statement. Can you confirm that the statement Executive Vice President Ribera gave to Le Mans a few weeks back is not in place, and the Commission and what the Commission's current line on a 2040 climate target proposal is? And perhaps you can also clarify what the code of procedure is when it comes to members of the college commenting on these processes when the services later fire back or say that they were not qualified to make that statement?
I'm sorry, Nicholas, what statement exactly are we talking about?
EVP Ribera's comment to Le Mans on the delay, which you later disavowed, I understand.
Sorry?
Which the Commission later disavowed, I understand.
Okay. I don't know who disavowed. I think we had a discussion last Friday here in terms of when the 2040 climate law would come up and whether it would still come in Q1. And indeed, it does not seem to come out in the Q1 because it would have to come out this week. Now, Anna Kaiser, anything else you'd like to add? No, nothing else to add on that now. Yes, Nicholas.
So just to confirm, this is now the official confirmation that there will be no 2040 climate target proposal by the Commission in Q1.
If there's no proposal this week, then indeed it means that there's no proposal in Q1.
Can you confirm there will be no proposal this week?
Not aware of any proposal this week, based on all the planning tools that we have at our disposal. But there will be a hebdo this afternoon, but it does not seem to be part of the discussion points. David.
Yeah, for Anna Kaiser, I don't know if you can get to the podium. So we seem to have clarity there that it's not going to come in Q1, which ends, when is it, this week? I was wondering, can we expect the 2040 target in Q2, in the second quarter of the year? And then finally, another sort of planning type question is on the CO2 standards for cars. If I understand correctly, tomorrow there will be adoption by written procedure of a tweak. And my question to Anna Kaiser is, does that tweak or that flexibility mechanism or measure or whatever it's called, does that just concern the penalties for manufacturers who don't meet the CO2 targets? And could you just confirm that the review is that now, following last week's council, is that now for 2025? And will that look beyond, including just e-fuels? Thanks.
Yes, Anna Kaiser, on the CO2 standards.
So on the CO2 standards, yes, it is imminent, as the President herself also announced that it will be presented, the targeted amendment to the CO2 standards for vehicles by the end of this month. So as to what will be included, it will be indeed the flexibility that we have decided to offer for 3 years. As regards the counting of these emissions, and then of course this is a proposal that will be presented imminently, so I would do the commenting of its exact contents when we have a college adoption for that.
Yes, David, follow up on this?
We're listening here to the morning briefing for the European Commission. We're going to step away for a brief commercial break. We'll continue with more next.
The 2025 reduction targets. What does it mean? I mean, it looks like they are not satisfied with the proposal that is imminent about flexibility on the 3 years. Do you have any idea what they are asking? What is this targeted proposal for additional flexibilities? Thank you.
Let's discuss the proposals and what people think about them when we have presented them, and everybody has the full information of what we have included and how the text will look like. But indeed, the proposal that we discussed when the Automotive Action Plan was presented by Commissioner Tzitzikostas was that there will be a flexibility for 3 years that we will be offering for the industry as regards the CO2 emission standards.
Good. Any other question to Anna Kaiser? No. Then any other question on a different topic, please?
Yeah, it's for you, Paula Gerashina Tuhina, Radio Free Europe, soon to be shut down. It's on President's agenda. Tomorrow evening she has a dinner with Alexander Vučić, President of Serbia, together with the President of the Council. And this dinner is taking place in the time when Serbia is facing the biggest protest in its history, both in length and in number of participants. should this dinner be considered as support of Madame von der Leyen for president, who is well known what kind of opinion he has for the young protesters in the street? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this dinner will be the opportunity precisely to discuss a number of issues, and I would certainly not exclude that the ongoing demonstrations that are taking place in Serbia will be part of the discussions and will be part of the reforms that we've been encouraging Serbia to do. Yes.
But is this dinner a support for leader of that country?
President von der Leyen has meetings with leaders from across the world on a regular basis, and these are opportunities precisely to discuss issues, sometimes where we converge, sometimes where we may have different views. It's to be seen precisely as such an opportunity to discuss different aspects that are part of the current agenda. Yes.
Well, there are 6 countries in the Western Balkans, out of which 2 are front runners, and Serbia is not in one of the 2. So is President von der Leyen planning to meet any of the leaders, like having this kind of dinners with other leaders of Western Balkan countries, separately, of course? Thanks.
Yes, there's no exclusion of such a possibility. I don't know exactly what are the plans with regard to the other Western Balkan leaders for the moment, but obviously if there are such opportunities that arise and the President looks into them, and provided there is availability in her agenda, most often it is a positive reply, especially when the leaders are
already here a few days ago. He made many statements after the meetings, and there was just a general post from the Commissioner Kos, which some people saw it as too general without addressing the real issues in Serbia. So will EU have any, will there be any press point, first of all, or who will brief us of what the President von der Leyen said to Serbian President? Thank you.
Good, thank you. Listen, for the moment, there is no press point foreseen on our side, and we will let you know if there is a readout of this meeting. Yes, Stefan.
President Vučić is actually accusing you, the West, to be behind these protests in the streets of Serbia. So do you agree on that? I mean, are you behind these protests? And if not, what will President von der Leyen correct the record when she meets the President from Serbia? Thank you.
Without having to ask the calls to come in, we're certainly not behind this protests, but the subject of this protest and what leads to the dissatisfaction of the citizens may well be the subject of discussion tomorrow at a meeting with the President.
So you say maybe, so you think it's not necessary to talk about it necessarily. It's not the first priority for the President.
Prejudge what will be discussed tomorrow. That's what I mean by maybe. Any other question? Good. Then we wish you a good afternoon and a continuous good week. Thank you very much.
And that concludes this Monday morning's European Commission briefing. I want to bring us back here to the U.S., looking at the White House over in Washington, D.C. Right now, we are following several of these international headlines because, of course, it is already later in the day over on the other side of the world. But later on today, we are also expecting some more of these major breaking news stories to come out of the U.S., especially with the fact that later on, we will be hearing from President Donald Trump. He's going to be joined by the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry. They are going to be discussing several topics. We'll wait and see what's on their agenda. Not too much has been disclosed as of right now. And then a reminder that coming up in the next hour, again, another update from the Israeli government regarding the ongoing war in Gaza. That is, as we continue to follow all of those developments as well. We have this live picture over in Jerusalem, out of Israel. We're going to step away for our final commercial break of this hour. When we come back, we're going to dive right back into more of these international stories. So stick with us. More to come. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here at Live Now from Fox on this Monday, March 24th. I'm your host, Kara Lahara, and I'll be with you throughout the next couple of hours, continuing to guide you through the day's top stories, showcasing live events, keeping you up to date with everything that's happening all over the world. I want to bring us out to Paris in France, bringing us an update on a trial that we are following. This live look that we're getting, courtesy of our partners over at Reuters, as we do understand that the French actor Gerard Depardieu is expected to stand trial today in Paris over accusations that he sexually assaulted 2 women. Now, those accusations date back to 2021. This is a live picture that we have just outside of the courthouse. Earlier today, we did see him walking right in, and we do understand that several journalists are there in attendance at the same time, trying to get all of those updates for us. But Depardieu, who is now 76 years old, he is facing charges that he groped a 54-year-old set dresser and a 34-year-old assistant director during the production of the film Les Volets Verts, which translates to The Green Shutters. The actor denies any wrongdoing. So we're going to see if we get another view of Depardieu at this time, still waiting for more updates from inside of the courtroom. I don't believe that any journalists were allowed in there, but the Associated Press says that prosecutors in this case allege the incidents included obscene remarks and inappropriate touching, including an incident in which Depardieu allegedly used his legs to trap one of the women before groping her in front of other crew members. Now, both women have filed formal complaints. The trial was initially scheduled for October, but was postponed due to Depardieu's health. A verdict is expected at a later date. We're sticking with international headlines, but I want to bring us back out to this live image that we have at the White House in Washington, D.C. as we track the latest on the war between Russia and Ukraine and how the United States is trying to mediate a ceasefire proposal and those talks. So we do understand that today, U.S. negotiators are working on a proposed partial ceasefire. They're meeting with representatives from Russia just a day after holding separate talks with Ukrainian representatives. Each side has accused the other of undermining efforts to reach a pause in the three-year-old war. Kyiv and Moscow agreed in principle on Wednesday to a limited ceasefire after President Donald Trump spoke with the country's leaders, but the parties have offered different views of what targets would be off limits to attack. While the White House said, quote, energy and infrastructure would be covered, the Kremlin declared that the agreement referred more narrowly to energy infrastructure. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he would also like to see railways and ports protected. The talks today are expected to address some of those differences, as well as a potential pause in attacks in the Black Sea to ensure the safety of commercial shipping. So we're going to wait to see what comes out of those talks. Again, just yesterday, the U.S. met with representatives out of Ukraine. Turning now to the war that continues over in Gaza. And before I bring you a live image, I want to bring you this post on X from Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst as we continue to follow the death toll. Israel, remember, getting deeper into the Gaza Strip, continuing to strike in the southern parts of the territory. So Trey Yingst here with a photo accompanying this post that says, quote, Palestinian journalist Mohammed Mansour was killed today in Gaza. Journalists must be protected amid war. Now, Trey Yingst has been over in Gaza for the last several months, covering this extensively. And it comes as overnight we did hear that Israel struck southern Gaza's largest medical facility. I want to bring you out to this live picture that we have of that medical facility as I read some more reporting courtesy of the Associated Press regarding this entire situation. Now, we know that Israel has struck the Gaza Strip and it has killed more than 60 Palestinians, including women and children, according to what the Gaza Health Ministry said earlier today. And it comes nearly a week after Israel ended its ceasefire with Hamas with that surprise bombardment. Meanwhile, officials say that Egypt has introduced a new proposal to try to get the Israel-Hamas ceasefire back on track. Hamas would release 5 living hostages, including an American Israeli, in return for Israel allowing humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip and a weeks-long pause in the fighting. That's according to an Egyptian official. Israel would also release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Let's get a full update on everything that we saw happening within the Gaza Strip over the last several hours from Fox News correspondent.
Explosions from Israeli airstrikes keep lighting up the sky across the Gaza Strip. The IDF says it slammed Nasser Hospital Sunday night, southern Gaza's largest medical facility. Officials were targeting a Hamas member operating there, who the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry later confirmed was killed. At least one other person died and several others were also wounded.
What we know is that the surgery building was bombed, and as you can see, there are injuries among the crew.
The strike comes as doctors in Gaza have been overwhelmed with an uptick in patients since Israel began relaunching attacks last week. On Sunday, officials said more than 50,000 Palestinians have been killed since the start of the war. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordering the attacks to resume after saying talks to secure the release of the remaining hostages showed no signs of progress. It's estimated Hamas is holding 59 hostages. 24 of them are believed to still be alive. But Netanyahu's call to launch new strikes is triggering growing unrest in Israel. Over the weekend, thousands gathered in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to protest the government's handling of the hostage talks.
I watch my country just continuing a non-ending war.
Many calling for peace, saying fighting won't bring the hostages home.
What I would want is a government who would choose to go towards a peace agreement.
While Israel has threatened to bolster the attacks, Hamas is calling for a permanent ceasefire and a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza for the release of the remaining hostages. Sue Guzman, Fox News.
Thank you to Sue Guzman, Fox News correspondent, for that report. A live now look over in Jerusalem. As earlier today, that's where we saw Israel's foreign minister. He convened with a representative from Europe to discuss the latest developments out of that war. Let's take a look.
morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll start with statements by Foreign Minister Gideon Saar and High Representative Kallas, and then we'll open it for questions. Please.
EU High Rep for Foreign Affairs Kaja Kallas, welcome to Jerusalem, DC, David's capital. I appreciate your visit and we appreciate your friendship. Last month you hosted me in Brussels and we renewed the important EU-Israel Association Council meeting. It was a chance to conduct a constructive and open dialogue. The European Union is Israel's largest trading partner and an important ally. We share a common history, partly painful, shared values, shared challenges, and shared interests. Sometimes there are also differences of opinion. That is okay. Israel is a strategic asset to Europe. We are now fighting the war of the free world. Iran, Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah attack us because we are nearby. But make no mistake, the war is against Western civilization, against its values and its ways of life. It is only natural for us to expect more support from Europe. We saw this morning the barbaric terror attack near Yokneam, which cost the life of a 75-year-old man. This is a result of the ongoing incitement in the Palestinian Authority. In our dangerous region, stability and de-radicalization cannot be attained through weakness. Only after ISIS was defeated on the battlefield did it stop drawing young Europeans to its ranks. It is not true that radical ideologies cannot be defeated. If terror and extremism are eradicated in the Middle East, it will make Europe safer. And if not, the opposite will be the case. For a week now, Israel has been operating against the Hamas terrorist state in Gaza. Israel agreed to U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's proposals to extend the temporary ceasefire. But Hamas twice rejected them. They are still holding